Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for returning to another episode of Master Force with Mu Shemsu-t. I am so excited to be part of the Female Solution, not just on the platform, but in life in general, because I agree with the statement that we can change the world. So thank you for joining me today. We're going to be extending our Level Up series. So we're going into episode 3. If you missed the other 2 episodes, the first one we were leveling up inside of our knowledge base. The second one, our individual knowledge base, what it means to be leader for ourselves. And then in the second edition, we looked at the Mommy Teaches the Young Ninja series so that we can look and see what do we need to do to support our young people at a younger age to be self-actualized. So that was in episode 2. You can go back and find that either on our Facebook or our YouTube channel. And as always, I'm going to ask. I'm learning how to walk my own talk, as they say. But I want to ask you to, if you're watching this on YouTube, to please like it, share, and also comment. That would be greatly appreciated. So today's topic is about awakening your yin energy. In yin energy, and many of us, we hear about yang, being yanged out, or having yang energy. That's the outward action, being very active, very aggressive, very assertive, something that we tend to see, or we actually label that as masculine energy. In this reference, it would be considered yang energy. And so sometimes when we're in our life, we tend to be more focused on yang and less focused on yin. Now, yin energy is considered to be more of a female energy, but according to the universe, it's just the balance of the forces, the outward force and the inward force. Okay, it's not necessarily male or female, except for we use that to distinguish the way it's used. However, every single one of us, male and female, we all have yang and yin energy. And we all have a way of using that to our advantage. However, the disadvantage that many of us have has run into as women is that we have been emulating the way that men operate in life. And when we emulate the way men operate, we suppress those great gifts that we have within ourselves. What makes us woman? What makes us feminine? And now as we're moving into the divine feminine, it's important for us to actually remember the essence of these skills within ourselves, and not only use them, but also help others to cultivate them. It's going to go a long way because as I go through this, you'll realize that what's missing in our society is the yin factor. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. And when we're talking about awakening the yin energy, we're talking about receptivity, intuition, adaptability, nurturing, and magnetism. Those are the top 5. There are many others, but those are the 5 that I'm going to focus on in this conversation so that we can actually begin to see how we represent it in our life and how we can use it to make profound greatness for ourselves. Okay. So here, what we're going to talk about, we're going to define yin energy. We're going to look at the five major attributes. We're also going to look at the stories inside of that. I have five wonderful characters that I'd like you to meet that will help us ground this information into us. And then towards the end, we're going to do a little practice exercise just for the day so we can see what it looks like to actually be inside of our yin essence. And then we're going to close with some reflection and some actions that we can actually take. Um, for the next week, it doesn't make sense to learn something if you're not going to apply it. And I think applying it right away actually gives us credence to keep moving forward. So, what is yin? Yin is not a weakness, it is the foundational force of creation, intuition, restoration, and grounded presence. It balances the doing nature of yang with the wisdom of receiving, listening, flowing, caring, and drawing the right actions and the right things towards us. So power does not always push, sometimes power receives. It senses, it softens, it attracts. So most of what we want to do is to bring that type of essence into ourselves. We want to actually work on each one of these elements that we're talking about: the receiving, the inner knowing, the flow, the care, the radiance. What does that look like? And what is required of you to have that in your daily life? So, in order to know that, what I want to do is go through each one of these characteristics by introducing a persona, a person to you that is also working through this. And I also want to let you know that I've written a small booklet on this, and it's called Awaken the Yin Within. And if you would like a PDF, an ebook version of it, you can send me an email to Rita at masterforceleadershipacademy.com, and I will gladly send you a copy of that. So, so now when we look at the five attributes of yin power, we talk about receptivity, the ability to receive support without immediately trying to fix it. So, receiving support. And think about that. I don't know about you, but receiving support has not been the way that I've gone through life. I've had to literally make myself grow into that. And I'm going to ask you to forgive my slides because they adjusted when I brought them onto the screen, so you can it's still readable. But I'll read them to you, okay? So receptivity, being able to receive support without immediately fixing it, right? And then we have intuition, trusting the inner compass that's beneath the logic. Many of us stay in our heads when we're trying to figure out, but there's a deeper wisdom that comes to us, and we want to start cultivating it. How many times do you hear yourself saying, "Oh, I should have listened to my first voice"? That's your intuition. And when you don't listen to it, that's because you're staying within the logic of your own mind. And then when we talk about adaptability, we want to focus on learning to move like water. In other words, when things show up, and if they show up a way that we don't like, that we can still choose that. We can choose that as though that's how we wanted it. That allows us to adapt to it and use it instead of pushing against it and arguing with it and wishing that it wasn't like that. Okay, this way we actually get to be adaptable. And then we have nurturing, how to hold space for growth and healing. How many of us actually do focus on daily aspects of growth and healing, and or do you just wait until you get sick and don't feel well? And again, our soul is so comfortable with giving us lessons that it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, I'm just going to, have to knock you out. And sure enough, we end up laid out on our couch or in our bed, pulling ourselves back up when actually we can cultivate nurturing inside of our daily, our weekly, our monthly, our quarterly, our yearly practices. We should have some type of nurturing aspects throughout our day. And so that is second nature. And then the last one, what does it mean to be magnetic? If you think about a magnet, you see the energy of it going out from you, but what it's doing is attracting, it's pulling to you those things that you're vibrating with. You have this high vibration, right? You have this energy within you. Now, depending on how you cultivate your energy is what you're going to magnetize to you. So, we've talked in many of our other sessions about the importance of visualization. Visualization is one of those processes you can use to increase your magnetism so that your frequency is aligned with the vision that you actually want to create in your life. Okay, so those are the five that we're going to look at today. Now, as we go through these, you'll be able to map them to your own life. That is what my intention is. So, the first one, when we talk about Maya here, this is Maya. Let me introduce you to Maya. Maya is a mother of a couple of boys. She works very hard every day. She works in a factory. She's constantly worried about her family. So she comes home and, she cooks, she cleans, she prepares dinner every night. And she's one of those women that, she's going to get it done. She's going to get it done no matter what, no matter how tired she is, no matter how much it is. She's a soldier, right? And then her husband comes into the house and he can hear that the sons are all over the place. It's a lot of noise. And he can see, his wife is, over the stove cooking, and he knows that she's been working all day. And he comes up to her and he wants to relieve some of her stress. And so he asked her, "Can I help you?" And her rigid, "Can I help you?" sounds like you think I can't do it, something's wrong. So she's very rigid inside of that conversation. Says, "No, I got it. I have it. You go ahead. You're just as tired as I am." And then he realizes that even if he's tired, he knows that he needs to give her a break. He knows that she can hold it down. So it's not about her ability or her capacity. He wants to contribute to her. And his message is, "Baby, let me love on you by doing this. Just receive it." Now, imagine someone's trying to give you something and you're refusing to receive it. That feeling by itself is a turnoff, right? Somebody saying, here, I want to give you this. And you say, no, no. That shuts a door on communication, on the back and flow of the momentum of the engagement. So when we become more receptive, what we want to do is we want to just learn to say thank you. Thank you. And how quick we can say thank you is a measure, it's a way of looking, oh, I'm getting better at this. Okay, thank you. I was able to receive that. Somebody pays you a compliment. Oh, thank you. You know, instead of, oh, this old rag, or, oh, you look just as good. No, it's just thank you. It's a way of allowing ourselves to just let it in. And sometimes, we think that we have to work for that. We're not working hard enough to get it. And that's just not real. That's kind of like another level of conditioning that we want to move away from. Being receptive. We just showed a couple of different examples of it, but also when you learn to be receptive on the outside, on the things that's coming towards you, you also learn to be receptive to your spirit, to the things that God is also bringing towards you. Okay, so receptivity is one of those first areas of opening to your yin power. And now, when we're talking about cultivating receptivity, you can think of it as a spiritual discipline for people who have been trained to overgive. Let me say that again. Receiving is a spiritual discipline for people who have been trained to overgive. In our community, I know that most of us are givers. We just trip over ourselves trying to make sure everybody is okay. Overgive, overgive. Now, when you learn to receive, it actually brings the balance back. And then you also begin to look and see where you're overgiving. So, another way of looking at your receptivity is in your listening. Are you an active listener? Or do you sit and judge while people are talking, sit and evaluate? You're looking at what they're wearing, you're looking at their shoes, you're checking out their outfit, you're checking out how they're talking, instead of actually being present and listening and being engaged. So engaged. When you engage with another person, you can almost guess and feel what their next words are going to be because you're that tuned in. So that's a practice that you can put in place today. Look and observe. Are you an active listener? And then also when you're receiving, you want to look at when people compliment you, when people are trying to love on you, when people are looking to help you or provide resources, that you immediately can go into thank you. And that thank you, that receptivity, it actually feeds your gratitude that we're already practicing. We're already moving into that level of understanding. Let's see what we have here. Name is say, we have been conditioned, often by our mothers, yes, to believe we're supposed to be super women who don't need help. Oh, yes, Naima, that is so true. We learned it, our mothers, our grandmothers, and we watched them just actually, carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And then if we didn't do that, what would we call it? Lazy? So many different names if we didn't want to do all of that work. But even look at how we look at this generation now. What do we do to them because they don't want to do work the way that we've been doing it? But I think we're learning, and this is why I love this awakening that's happening in our society right now. People are realizing there's something more to life than just blood, sweat, and tears. And how can I actually connect to that? So I want you to name one place that you will stop over functioning this week. Just one place that you will stop over functioning. And I know for me, I go from doing podcasts to working a job, taking on clients, and then I have evening clients, and then I have my own projects. And I have been, I have a solid bedtime at 8 o'clock. Everyone knows that, and that's one of the things that I do to set up boundaries so that I'm moving away from that over giving. I'm not always available the way that I used to be. All right. So that was Maya talking to us about receptivity. And now I want to introduce you to Nia. Nia is going to talk to us about trusting the whisper over the shout. Many of us have not been able to distinguish the voices in our head. We still have a lot of our parental voices, right? Like Sister Naima was saying, our parents, our mothers kind of taught us how to move through life. But that parental voice tends to be very critical. It's a very loud, critical voice. And sometimes it tries to speak over what our intuition is talking to us about. So Nia is learning. She actually is a single mom. She works a lot, but she has found a job that she wants to apply to that's near her home. It pays double what she's making now. It has benefits, and she could do more to take care of her and her son. And so after work this evening, she's going to walk over to the place and give them the application. And as she's moving through the community to go to the new building that they're creating, so the old building is there, but they also have a new building coming up, which is why they're hiring new people. She looks inside and she can see that the energy is very different than what she would like to experience. She had a knot in her stomach to come up, and she said, oh, this community doesn't seem that safe. Now she's not saying that out loud because her son is with her. She's thinking it in her head. And then another voice goes, oh no, this is good, you'll be okay, go ahead and get that job, it's more money, you'll have insurance, don't stop now, you have the application, just go ahead and drop it off, you know they'll hire you. And the closer she got to the building, she actually began to feel an even deeper anxiety within her stomach. And she realized that, oh, this isn't right. She said, this there's something very off about this, and I don't think I would enjoy working here. So she tells her son, she grabs his hand, she said, come on, let's head back home. And he said, why? I thought you were going to get the job. And he said, I think that God is trying to tell me something. So we'll make it work with what we have and see what shows up. And that's what trusting the whisper over the shout. So in that voice in her head, oh, you're gonna regret this. You're gonna wish that you hadn't turned around. And she's learning how to listen to the whisper instead of the loud voice. So it says, God gave you a compass, but you keep trying to read a map that someone else has drawn, right? So, God, each one of us has a compass within us individually. My compass is different from yours. We can't compare ourselves to each other, but we can compare ourselves to the practice of listening to our intuition. So you want to notice your body's yes and no's, the warmth, the opening, the knots, the tightness, the heaviness, the lightness. You want to get to know your body so well that when you get that twitch or that twinge, you know to turn around. You know that take a deep breath, something's coming, but not a fear response, but really just a message. So the question is, when did your body know something before your mind admitted it? You have one of those stories, don't you? All of us do. And sometimes we just push away what our body was trying to tell us and we stayed inside our mind. And we want to change that practice. We want to do what Nia did. We want to actually listen to, I was sorry about that. We want to actually listen to what it is we know that our spirit is trying to tell us. Okay. So I want you to actually take on with knowing your body, your yes and your no's. If nothing else, practice there. All right. And then we have Jada. Jada is about adaptability. And if you notice how society is changing right now, we're having to adapt very quickly to new ways that the government is moving, new laws, wait, we haven't even got to all of the newness yet because we have changes in the currency, the finances, the banks. So Jada is about moving like water. You notice how when things come up for us to change, one of the first things we want to do is say, what? No, I hate change. How many times have you said that when something has changed that you didn't like? You hate change. Well, Jada is experiencing this because here her husband is in the military and he has new papers and they have to move again. This is about she's only been at this last place for the last 11 months. And she was just now getting used to the community and just getting used to the school and her children. And now here she is, all of a sudden, she has to move again. And first of all, she got frustrated about it because her husband has already gone to the other place, but here she is at home, her current location, and she has to pack and, close out everything. And she's feeling the frustration coming up in her. And then she starts realizing that, wait a minute, I've been here before. I've actually had myself practice this. So I know that this isn't a bad thing. And so she starts looking at herself and she takes on like water. You don't lose yourself just because the shape of the container changes. So she said, oh, I don't have to be worried or scared because we're going to a different place because I know how to adapt. I had to adapt at this location. I adapted at the last location. I can actually take on doing some other things to make me feel more comfortable. So she created rituals. She created ways to pray. She added incense and scents to her home. She added music. She created journaling, breath work, things to help her stay grounded. She creates magic in her environment so that it feels like home no matter where she goes. And then she started realizing it's not about where she is. It's not about how often they move. It's not about how many changes that makes because she can create the stability within herself. So, how many times have you actually pushed against change just because it was different from what you had been doing? Or it looked like it was going to be so hard. Oh, I can't let this go. Or I can't leave this person. I can't leave this place. When actually, if our spirit and our soul is trying to get us to see and do something different, there's also all of those tools and all of those things that we will need, we will be provided for because we're going to allow the receptivity and the intuition as part of that as well to guide us through this new place, this new space. So we don't have to be so caught up in how bad it is. And that's what we tend to do, don't we? We tend to think about the worst part of it instead of creating it as an adventure. Oh, here's something new and different now. Here's a better way of doing that. Here's another way I can handle that. So let me ask you, what stays true about you even when everything around you changes? What stays true about you even when everything else around you changes? And that is what becomes your stable condition because you take it with you everywhere that you go. So we're going to practice moving like water. And when things show up, we're going to look and see who am I being? You're going to have your own solid self that's always there, resilient, ready to go, adaptable. You can look for your resources and you have the answers available to you. So we're going to practice that. So actually look and see. I want you to see if you can find who you are when everything else changes. Okay? So just take that on. And we're going to look at, towards the end of this session, we're going to do a little bit of resetting of our energy and we'll find a balanced spot. I just want to do a little bit of practice with us while we're here. Okay. All right. So we're gonna take a break now. When you listen to this commercial break, I want you to consider supporting a fundraiser that we're doing to feed the homeless with Zelda. Okay, this is a project that's close to her heart, something that she's been doing for a while. So we've taken on this energy project, and the team is helping to raise funds. So if you know of anyone that can save money on their energy and at the same time support this fundraiser, you'll see a number at the end, and I'll be back as soon as we're done. Thank you.
Have you seen all the solar farms popping up everywhere? You know, the big fields with the solar panels. There's one in our community. They produce electricity using the clean energy of the sun to send to the power grid to reduce our energy costs. Because not everybody can get solar panels put on their roof the way I have, but everybody can enroll for free to share the energy produced by the solar farms. That's why they were built. You know you're supposed to be getting a 10 to 20% savings on your bill for that, right? Illinois has a goal to transition by 2050 to 100% clean energy. So everybody needs to be connected. People in other communities are already getting their savings. So I'll be by to see you because they want to make sure you get your savings as well. It just takes a few minutes. I'm Naima Latif. Call me if you have any questions. 312-849-3456.
Wonderful. So again, I'm going to ask you to support this fundraiser. And, it's not going to cost you anything. All we want you to do is just share with Naima. You're just going to share your information, where you pay your energy bill, and then they just get a side. Okay, Naima, you here? You want to talk about it a little bit? Hold on. Where's my marker here? How are you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm fabulous.
You. How, yes, tell us about the energy program. I just played the commercial.
Yes, well, I will run across the screen the information because basically the state, really the country, but definitely the state, several states that are really trying to go to 100% clean energy, solar energy. They are giving an incentive for organizations that if they can encourage people to get that savings on their energy bill by simply signing up to get part of their electricity from one of the solar farms in the area, then they will pay that organization a referral gift. And in this case, we're working with the Higher Learning Network's homeless feeding program.
Yep.
So I'll run this across the screen so that people know in order to, oh, that's not it. And so the people know if and all they have to do is send a clear copy of the front and back of their electric bill, and they will get a 10 to 20% savings on the bill. And there we go. And they will get a 10 to 20% savings on their bill because solar energy is less expensive than the regular energy sources that we have been using. And this is all to help save the planet and
That's right.
have less dependency on fossil fuels like oil, gas, that sort of thing that, we tend to have all the conflicts over. But the sun gives us energy for free. So solar panels absorb that energy, convert it into electricity. And if you've seen solar farms in your city, then you know that they are helping us convert to a different energy source all across the planet. And so if you just tap into that, then that will help save on your bill. And you're also contributing to the revitalization and keeping the planet clean. And so with this fundraiser, when those who do that, Higher Learning Network will get $25 as a referral gift to help them continue to feed our unhoused neighbors.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you. And thank you for coming on to explain this. I really appreciate it. I tried to do my best, but it was more thorough from you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I'm glad I washed my face early this morning so I can be presentable.
So you can peep in.
Absolutely. Well, I'm absorbing all this fascinating information, so thank you as always for sharing your wisdom.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
All right. So now let us go back to our conversation that we were having, and that was such a nice little treat to have his sister Naima join us. And I hope that you do take her up on this fundraiser. We really should be paying more attention to our energy uses, just like we're talking about in our bodies. We also have to take care of Mother Nature as well. So now in this next conversation, we're talking to Camille, and Camille is really having a hard time allowing herself to let down that fortress that she has built as she is building this empire. She has her vision set on how much money she needs to have, how much accomplishment she needs to have, how much achievement she needs to put into her daily work. And because of that, every time someone reaches out to her to participate in something, her favorite word is, I'm busy. I'm busy. And so she was working one evening and had a great day, very productive day, but she was very tired. And her aunt called the phone, and she looked at the phone, and she thought about not answering it, but she did. She answered it. And her aunt said to her, she said, I know that you're probably busy, but I just called to see how you were doing, and to see if you're coming out to the family gathering or family dinner on Sunday. And Camille's first thought was, I really don't have time. But then she had just been thinking about how she needed to take more time to not just nurture herself, but to also nurture her family, her community. So in that moment, she said to her aunt, she says, no, no, I'm not busy. Thank you for calling. I really needed to hear your voice. And then just as she said that, her jaws let go. You know how we clench our cheeks, we clench our teeth, don't even realize it because we're just in the grind, you know. But she realized in that moment that she needed, instead of a fortress around her, she needed to have a garden. She needed to have people around her that were nurturing her as well as she was nurturing them. And so she started looking at nurturing isn't about letting people take from you, it's about being the source. So when you are the source, that means that you have filled yourself up. You have all that you require. And then when you go to the space of others, it just comes off of you. You can nurture. And then when you have this, you can release, like I said, release your jaw. You can receive compliments. You can create unscheduled spaces. You can have a gut check, really checking in. Check in right now. Are you breathing? Can you see right now that you may be out of your body and not present? That's one of the best things to do when you're in a conversation or you're listening to a podcast, or even if you're reading something. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on in your belly. And that's why we initiate belly breathing often, because it helps us to stay connected to our body. And then there's also sensory rituals where you can turn off. I'm really practicing this. I don't know about you, but I have my phone track my screen time between my iPad, my laptop, and my phone. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't like it being that high. So, I'm starting to get more tuned in to cutting down my screen time. So that's what I call a sensory ritual. And then, on Sundays to actually unplug the internet, just unplug the Wi Fi so that there's no energy going there. It's like a day of detoxing. So then you can also have a no agenda day. You can have no agenda connections. And also you can have digital sunsets. In other words, don't bring your phone to your bed. I've been good at that maybe twice a week. I'm going to get up to 3 times a week. Okay. But that is another way of pulling down the fortress and actually creating a garden. So I want to ask you, where can you take on this 7 day softening challenge where you look at allowing these things to flow through you? You don't have to do them all, but you can create some aspect of pulling that fortress back so that you can have more of a garden. And then our last person is Eloise. Eloise is teaching us about magnetism. Stop chasing and just start being. In other words, the sun doesn't chase the world to give it light, it simply remains at the center and it shines. Now, how often do we say that we want something? And in our want, the first thing that we do is we take action. We're going to make it happen. Now, when you do that, that goes where to? The yang energy. When we apply yin energy to that same idea, I want something. So now instead of rushing to go and make it happen, we actually sit with ourselves 10 to 15 minutes and we allow ourselves to connect with our own energy. We cultivate that magnetism with inside of ourselves where we also have our receptivity and our yin. Everything is within us, right? So it's all culminating right there. We're in our breath and we're allowing, right? We're allowing the universe to pour into us and tell us what could possibly be our next step. And when we do that, we can now take what we call inspired action. And when we take inspired action, it's usually followed behind, okay, you take one step, the universe is going to take two, because that's inspired action. That's not you trying to force an outcome, right? Because a lot of times we want to make it happen. So, and that's where the ego takes over, right? But when we're inside about magnetism, and even when we find ourselves trying to push something through, let us sit down 10 to 15 minutes and just be still and just listen, just allow. Where are you ready to stop chasing and return to your own essence? Where in your life, your work, your projects, where can you be more of your essence instead of your yang? That's the conversation that Eloise is asking because as she builds her family legacy, she realizes that she can't make everybody participate. So she's going to be in the joy of its creation with inside of herself and allow herself to be moved by divine action. So that's what we want to have you do as well. Okay. So now we've gone through all 5 of those. And now let's just do a short reset. I want you to just, if you can, if you're driving, please don't do this, but if you're listening, I want you to go into your breath and just slightly breathe. But as you're breathing, expand your belly. Breathe in through your nose, expand your belly, and drop your shoulders. And you're breathing in, holding it, and you're going to let it go. Just a natural flow. Just breathe in, and you're just allowing yourself to be present to your body. And now, as you breathe, I want you to name one form of help, love, or wisdom that you are willing to receive. Just name one form. You know, some of us don't allow love into our lives because we complicate it with the past. But love could be from any source, our pets, our plants, you know, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our neighbors. You know, we want to be inside of receiving that love as well. We want to receive joy. We want to receive compliments. We want to receive help. And then I want you to listen. Ask your body, what does my body already know? Just ask, what does my body already know? And especially before you take action, what does my body already know? And then listen. Do you see that if you just add these things, it's going to slow you down so that you can get into the flow? You can release yourself from always having to control and make it happen. You can see how much you can trust the outcome. So, what is one thing that you can release that you are forcing today? Just one thing. And you don't have to release it for the whole day. Just release it for a little time. Just allow yourself, even in this moment, let it go. And then to radiate, to create that magnetism, you just want to sit in the truth of who you are, the value that you're growing from within yourself. It has nothing to do with what you have and what others think, status, or nothing. You are high value because you exist. You are here. And the more you take care of yourself, the more that you allow your vehicle to become aligned with the energy of the universe, that's how your value increases. But you have to bring it internally. Okay? Wonderful. I hope you took that pause with me. And I want you to remember that you can pause anytime during the day. You know, I pause when I wake up in the morning instead of jumping up. I sit with my breath, create my day. And when I finish with clients, sometimes I have to reset my mind. So reset as often as you need to so that you can stay attuned to what you're doing. And then here's some questions for you. Where are you overusing yang energy? Where are you forcing things, fixing things, proving, or pushing? That's how you can tell the difference between the yin and the yang because you're forcing, you're fixing, you're proving, or you're pushing. And then which yin attribute feels most natural to you? And then which feels most uncomfortable? So out of that five, look and see which one you favor, but then work on the one that you feel most uncomfortable with so that you can get some muscle in that area. For me, I've probably gotten better at being receptive, but that used to be my weakest muscle, allowing myself to receive and allow others to help me. And then what would change if you received support without guilt? Do you feel guilty when people help you or when you ask for help? Yeah. So if that's the case, then we want to shift away from that because we know that the universe is always providing for us. And then how does intuition speak through your body? Most of the time, I feel it right at my solar plexus, right? And the thing is that excitement, um, fear, anxiety, they all happen in the same place in our stomachs, right? And depending on your mentality, depending on how you label it, is how you're going to respond to it. So if something happens and instead of becoming afraid, you take a deep breath and you center yourself, You can actually allow yourself to be present to whatever is going on without putting a label on it. You can observe without judging. You can just be present and be in your breath and just look and pay attention to what's happening. When you're like that, when you allow yourself to relax, the answers will come to you. Your instincts will actually come in, they will show up and tell you what to do. You know, sometimes we already know, but if we overthink and we overcomplicate, we move out of that safe space. So allow yourself to actually start trusting your body, listening to your intuition. Where does intuition speak through your body? And then what does magnetism look like in your leadership, in your family, and in your legacy? What does magnetism? Do people see you, hustling and bustling? That's not magnetism. The hustle and the bustle is not magnetism. We want to be at the point where we can actually sit and know that our sitting creates just as much accomplishment and achievement as us going out trying to make it happen. So those are some questions for you to consider. And then I want to mention again that I do have an ebook that I would love to give to you for free. You can just email me at Rita at Masterforce leadershipacademy.com, and I will send you that version. And then this week's Yin assignment for receptivity, we want you to accept help where you can. For your intuition, you want to check your body before you make even one decision. You want to see what's being said to you before you even make one decision. And then for adaptability, you want to create one portable soul anchor. What is it? Besides the breathing, there's the journaling, there's the incense, there's the candles, lighting a candle. But you want to be able to ground yourself in one thing, or several things. I like to journal too at night. That's a way of me recapturing myself after the end of a long day. And then what about nurturing? In nurturing this week, send one no agenda message. In other words, hey, I was just thinking about you. How are you? Instead of, hey, I was thinking about you and I wondered if you could come and fix something. That's an agenda. That's asking somebody to do something just because you thought of them. But what we want to do is we want to nurture people just because we had a thought about them. And then for magnetism this week, we want to stop chasing one outcome and return to the essence. I remember I was working with a client several years ago, and he was building a business, and he had so many things going on. And I had him do this exercise. I said, okay, write down the 3 most important things that you want to get done this year. That's really causing you your biggest concern. The first thing was he wanted to buy a home. Then he wanted to buy a new car. And then the third thing was he wanted to have a more professional wardrobe because he was going into a consulting business, creating a consulting business. He realized that his wardrobe had to be improved. So I had him write that down. I said, okay, write that down, each one of those, the home, the car, and your wardrobe. I said, okay, so now tell me this home. What does that home provide for you? Having a home, what does it provide? He said, okay, it provides security. Okay, wonderful. He said, and it's like a sanctuary. I said, awesome. So you have your home for security. It has your sanctuary. I said, give me one more. He said, it's just private. I can have my own space, right? Like nobody has to know where I am. So it's kind of like I get to be free here, right? Nobody knows, right? That's okay. So you have a safe space, you have a sanctuary, right? And you get to be free. So then I said, write those down: free, safe, right? In a sanctuary. Now I asked him about his car. What does your car provide? You already have a car. What does this new car provide? He said, oh, this new car is going to provide luxury. Okay, write down luxury. He said, and then comfort. Okay, write down comfort. He said, in status, it gives me a sense of status. And he wrote that down. And then the last one was for his wardrobe. And he said, okay, the wardrobe gives me attention. People can see me. It gives me a certain flair. They know who's coming, who they're talking to, right? So, and then he said it gave him flair, it gave him attention. And then it also, he wanted to be seen as somebody who had something to say, that when he started speaking, people would listen. So I had him write all of that down. So then I asked him, I said, now read all of those things that's in the right hand column, that the qualities that you would get from these material things. And he listed the qualities, and he spoke about them. And as he spoke about them, I said, can you feel those things within yourself right now? And he looked and he said, yes, I can. I can feel security. I can feel free. I can feel like my space is a sanctuary that I have now. Yeah, I can feel like people listen to me when I talk. I can feel like I'm impressive. So he started realizing that the things that he wanted, the material things that he wanted, he could already create those things now within himself. He could cultivate that within himself. And once he started doing that, it became easier for him to bring those things into himself. And he was so in awe. When he left that session, he was so excited because he realized that he would get so frustrated trying to make things happen that he wasn't feeling the freedom and the joy and the cultivate. He wasn't feeling those. He wasn't feeling impressive in wanting people to see him because he was always frustrated. And so he realized that it was so important for him to spend stillness, time being with himself and feeling those qualities. And by feeling those qualities, he was able to move through that entire list. He literally accomplished everything that he wanted within that year. But not because he was doing the hustle and bustle, but because he cultivated those qualities within himself, and it led him to all of the right action. So that is the purpose of yin energy, cultivating from within. So I hope that you have learned some things about this conversation: how to receive, how to listen, how to flow, how to nurture, and how to radiate. And in doing so, this is going to make you even more powerful, more present, more fulfilled, more joyful. And it'll give you the balance. You'll be able to see the balance between the yang and the yin. And when you can have the experience of that balance, it will feel so good that peace and gratitude will just linger. As a matter of fact, as you learn to get used to that quality, it will just amaze you. You would just, why wasn't I living like this all the time? Why wasn't I insisting? Because we all know this. There's nothing new under the sun. We know this. But sometimes we have to be reminded that it's okay for us to live a soft life. Okay, so again, you can reach me at Rita at masterforceleadershipacademy.com. Get your free copy of The Yin Within. I would definitely email that to you. And I really appreciate you listening to me today. And I look forward to, we have one more edition for our Level Up series. And I look forward to bringing that to you next week. So in the meantime, I want you to awaken to the yin within. Thank you for joining me. See you next week.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, zhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.